That time doing tech support turned out positive for the customer. The story of Emily. Hi everyone, I have come across stories from this subreddit and another site, and I finally gathered the courage to share one from my more than 10 years of providing volunteer technical support. Please note that all first names used have been changed. The background: a friend and I established a small student-operated help desk while still in high school, which eventually grew to the 800-plus person workforce we have today. All members from various departments are entirely voluntary and participate, just for fun, or to keep our minds sharp, as we are all either struggling high school students or receiving disability benefits. Given the relaxed atmosphere of our entire operation, corporate policy is not as significant as it would be in a large corporate setting like Comcast, AT&T, etc. Although this organization is quite informal, there are certain behaviors we cannot tolerate. This story highlights one of those instances where adhering to policy actually benefited the customer. It is somewhat reassuring to know that our customer relationship management software, Microsoft Dynamics CRM 4.0, yes, we operate on a very tight budget, has been customized as follows. 1. Accounts, referred to as jackets, consist of one or more individuals, e.g., a business, a family, etc., such as the Smith family, and that is where the security question and personal identification number are stored. 2. The contacts, or cards, represent the individual people, e.g., Mr. John Smith. Each of these sections features a tab labeled alerts and warnings, or something similar, intended for items we do not want or cannot afford to become lost among the regular notes. Each time a note is added, it pushes the previous entries down, making it almost impossible to locate a disability alert that was recorded 120 phone calls ago unless it is in the alerts. This incident occurred approximately 7 years ago, so my recollection of events may be somewhat hazy. Cast me for the sake of this narrative, let's refer to me as Lindsay. I am your friendly neighborhood phone support agent. CX, the customer whose situation intersected with my life, referred to as Emily here. EB, an unpleasant individual in Emily's life. JM, our head of security. KM, my supervisor and the chief executive officer of the entire organization. Now let the story commence. Everything was calm. I had just returned from lunch, handled a few requests for simple tasks, password resets, home page changes, etc. And finally, my phone rang me. Thank you for calling company name support. My name is Lindsay. Could I begin by obtaining your first and last name, a reliable callback number, and a brief description of the issue? CX provides necessary information, revealing she required assistance converting a Word document to a PDF and sending it to her teacher for school. I locate her in the CRM and begin troubleshooting the issue when, in the background, I hear a clearly agitated man yelling at my customer. CX attempts to explain to the man that she is working with technical support to prepare a project for school, emphasizing that if she does not submit it before class tomorrow morning, her grade in that subject will drop below an A. I hear shouting and crying, indicating a distressing situation on the other end of the line, so I promptly message my supervisor about what is occurring. She instructs me to contact the head of security, leading to the following exchange. JM, do you have a moment? I have a concerning call, explains situation, and I have already informed KM about this. JM, Lindsay, I have a moment, let me investigate. In the meantime, keep the line open in case she returns to conclude the matter. KM, me, on the next contact, or if the situation settles down, have her create an encrypted Word document or OneNote file and submit the password for that file via ticket, encouraging her to document everything. If a crisis arises and she needs to provide information to law enforcement or a similar authority, they can reach out to us for the password if she is in a precarious situation to relay it to them. I realize this is not standard procedure, and we typically do not function as a password vault for customers, but this appears serious. JM, I am willing to assist where I am able. Keep me informed. Ultimately, the yelling ceases and the customer returns to the phone. We conclude the original task, and I guide her through what KM had instructed. She complies, and we move toward completing the call. I document the situation in the CRM. Several weeks pass, and I receive a call from EB of all people. He had decided to rummage through CX's laptop while she was at school and stumbled upon one of several copies of the journal file. He called us to attempt to open it, and that conversation went as follows: me standard greeting, EB provides original CX's details and explains the locked file. Me sir, I see there is a profile under that name, but I will need both the security answer and personal identification number to proceed with accessing this account. EB supplies the security question, and PIN me I check under the contacts section of the account and request his name. Surprise, it is not listed. Me, I apologize, sir, but unfortunately, although you have successfully verified the account's security information, I am unable to assist you because your name is not associated with the account. The only individual listed is Emily. She will need to contact us directly to add you as an authorized user, or you may create your own account, which incurs no cost. But that will not give you access to this person's account unless she adds you. EB proceeds to launch into a verbally abusive tirade about how we do not keep secrets in this family, and how he is going to have my job, demanding to speak to a supervisor immediately. Me, I inform him that I will be putting him in touch with my CEO, who will convey the same information. I also explain that 1. We do not retain customer passwords in their profiles for security reasons, hence we do not possess it. I was not truthful on that point. And 2. Even if we did have user passwords, I could not divulge them without his being authorized on the account. I then ask if he still desires to speak with my supervisor. EB, what part of now is not hitting insert derogatory term for a person of color? For the record, I am white. Me, sir, I must insist that if you cannot maintain a professional level during this call, I will be required to disconnect. Therefore, please refrain from using such language when addressing me. For those wondering why I did not issue a warning earlier, I knew it would not have made a difference, plus I was unable to interject. Me, throughout this entire exchange, I decided to send instant messages to KM and JM to inform them of who I was dealing with and what transpired, while asking if KM was prepared to take the call. She utilizes an iPad for communication, so it is preferable to confirm her availability before transferring. KM acknowledges her readiness, and I proceed with the transfer. Let's just say the outcome was as predictable as one might expect given the situation, with how he was behaving toward me and KM's reliance on an iPad for communication. After the transfer, I document my notes and quickly email the customer to inform her that there is a turbulent situation brewing at home and to brace herself for difficult times. She ultimately replies asking for the call recordings and my notes from the interactions if they are accessible, so she can forward them to a mandatory reporter, such as a teacher, counselor, etc. Typically, we do not provide customers with copies of call recordings, agent notes, or other CRM data, but given the circumstances, KM authorized the release with strict instructions to ensure that 1. It is the customer accessing it, and 2. It effectively reaches the mandated reporter. To achieve step 1, I personally handed over this information to her on a flash drive at a McDonald's during lunch, and to accomplish step 2, I requested that she send me an email confirming that it was now in the possession of the mandatory reporter. Fast forward about 3 weeks as I am managing my tickets, and I opened CX's profile since she had submitted an unrelated ticket, and I needed to retrieve vendor information for one of her devices. Upon opening the account, I noticed the following information under the Alerts and Warnings tab. Think of this as a large employee notepad for critical matters like disability accommodations, warnings about abusive customers, or special handling instructions modifications to processes. According to ESDJM, this customer lives in an unsafe environment with a man named Name. EB is known to make threats towards staff. If he calls, do not disclose any information regarding this account or the customer's status under any circumstances. If EB calls in, either 1, transfer to KM as she is available, or if that fails, 2, immediately disconnect and do not engage with the call. Ensure to log the call and 1, alert ESD, and 2, send a follow-up to the customer via ticket so she is prepared for an impending crisis. Alongside, according to MGMT-KM, this customer has been maintaining an electronic diary concerning the aforementioned issues with EB. If a verified law enforcement officer, social worker, or similar authority reaches out for information, the password is password. And now, for the conclusion of the story, the last I heard from that customer, she was doing considerably better. As for EB, he continues to call and create problems for staff members, including myself and other colleagues, KM included, but we deal with him accordingly. JM actually told him during one specific call, "Sir, good luck trying to get us shut down or firing us. We are all 100% volunteers, so you will not be impacting us financially in any way." I have more positive stories from that organization, but those are for another day. I merely wish to share this one, as I think it epitomizes that one wild tale that should be transformed into a documentary. Story 2. AIX and Pains follow up to yet another IBM upgrade, parts 1 and 2. This is a continuation of yet another IBM upgrade, which was presented in 2 segments. Part 1, https www.reddit.com r Tales from Tech Support, comments 186s Jill. Yet another IBM upgrade, Part 1 UTM source equals share and UTM medium equals web 2x and context equals 3. Part 2, https www.reddit.com r Tales from Tech Support, comments. In parts 1 and 2, I recounted the difficulties we faced while installing Unix on an AIX platform. After successfully getting the operating system installed, I was able to transfer our software to it without any issues. Here is what occurred when I deployed our software on the designated machine. We were responding to a request for proposals for a significant government contract for an organization that resembles Pi-R-Us, if you hold it out at arm's length and squint with one eye. The plan was for me to travel to a suburb of Washington, D.C., install the software during Integration Week, stay to offer any integration support and make adjustments to the software if needed, and then return home. Simple enough. I departed from our offices in Los Angeles on a Sunday and arrived at the facility early on Monday morning. They had already prepared an AIX workstation for me, and I had confirmed with the integration manager and the primary system administrator that they possessed a tape drive and adequate space on all the drives for me to install our software and compile it in the environment. I was pleasantly surprised to discover that the system was indeed set up, had a functioning tape drive, and ample disk space available for the software. In fact, everything was progressing so smoothly that our program was one of the first among several significant software packages to be integrated as part of the proposal to the government client, and I completed all my tasks by noon on Tuesday. I spent Tuesday afternoon assisting some other teams in testing their software, addressing questions regarding our software, and actively monitoring the network with our network management software. There is something utterly satisfying, to a tech enthusiast like me, that is, in observing people unplugging and replugging cables into the back of a network device, witnessing the port indicator shift from off to green or yellow, if there were major packet loss issues, on the device, and seeing the same simulated lights on our management software displays transition from dark gray to green or yellow. In essence, our software was performing as expected, actively overseeing the network as intended. I called my boss, the main founder of the company, and shared the good news. He then informed me that due to concerns regarding intellectual property and copyright matters, I was under no circumstances allowed to leave the source code on the network. He emphasized that while I could leave the binaries and configuration files, I had to eliminate the source code structure. Understood, boss, whatever you say. I informed the integration manager that I needed to remove the source code, and he was agreeable. I inserted a new tape and created a backup of the entire source code structure. After backing it up, I restored it on another file system and executed a couple of utilities to compare the 2 build structures, just to ensure that the backup functioned correctly. After verifying the backup's integrity, I proceeded to create a second backup of the source structure and performed another comparison for safety. By early afternoon, I had placed one of the copies in an overnight delivery package and sent it back to our office in Los Angeles, while keeping the other tape with me in case I required anything for the remainder of the week. Naturally, I had my original source code tape, but having the backup of the structure after compiling and building was much more efficient if restoration of the environment was necessary. After confirming with the integration manager and the main system administrator that it was safe, I then removed the source structure. I spent the following day and a half assisting wherever I could, and by Friday, the entire system was nearly prepared, with only a few peripheral components remaining to be integrated and configured. A final meeting occurred with the integration manager, the main system administrator, and all the vendors to review final details before the presentation for PyRUS on the following Thursday or Friday. When it was time for me to deliver my final status update, I stated, reiterated, and then, for extra clarity, confirmed once again that our source code had been removed from the file system, and the only indication that I had even been in the building was the binaries for our software, along with the related configuration files. I emphasized that due to legal matters, we could not, nor would we, provide our source code in any shape or form, and that they were responsible for backing up the file system containing the binaries. I was assured, reassured, and then told somewhat impatiently something along the lines of, "Yes, we understand. We will back up the system as soon as the final integrations are complete." I offered to create a backup of the binary structure, but since other vendors had their binaries in the directory, I was unable to perform the backup due to concerns with the other vendors' intellectual property. Nonetheless, I was reassured once more that they would ensure everything was backed up. After a lengthy, demanding week working alongside 8-10 different vendors, everyone was exhausted and irritable but optimistic about the chances of winning the substantial government contract. If I remember correctly, the other group bidding on the contract was actually led by IBM. I returned home that Friday and enjoyed a well-deserved, relaxing weekend with my family. I was fairly fatigued from the cross-country flight, and the jet lag was affecting my body. On the following Monday, I reached the office and opened my email, and nearly cried. Someone had decided that prior to constructing the final system to be used for the proposal demonstration, they should ensure the machine was in perfect condition, so it had been wiped. Somehow, the system administrator who was instructed to create the backup must have misinterpreted pack up, or crack up, or your mother has messed up her back. Because you're likely already ahead of me here, they had not made a backup of the system before erasing it, and could we please send a tape with our software so they could recreate it? The founder of the company responded, absolutely not. The only option left was for me to travel there and recreate the software on their system once more. And so, after contacting my wife to repack my suitcase and bring it to me, that night I boarded a red-eye flight from Los Angeles back to Washington, D.C. Quick side note, I cannot sleep on airplanes and was stuck in a window seat in the last row of a section. Due to the emergency exit directly behind me, my seat did not recline. To add to the fun, the individual in the aisle seat ordered a drink shortly after takeoff, took 2 sips, and then promptly fell asleep with his half-consumed gin and tonic on his tray, his hand gripping the glass. For the entire flight, the plane was full and I was unable to move around. So, throughout the flight, I was unable to sleep, unable to recline my seat, unable to get up to use the restroom, and had to keep an eye on his drink to prevent any spills. I took a shuttle from the airport to the hotel, arriving at approximately 7:00 a.m. I checked in and took a long, hot soak in the tub to prepare for the day. Around 8:00 a.m., the integration manager met me for breakfast and then escorted me back to the integration site. I loaded the tape containing our source code and executed the make process, which completed in about 10 minutes without any error messages because I knew to check TMP first. After transferring the binaries and configuration files to the integration machine and testing it, I looked at the integration manager and said, "If you do not mind, could you please create a backup or two before you take me back to the airport?" Once the backups were completed and confirmed, I once more removed our source code, and we left for the airport. We stopped for lunch, and I was back on a plane by mid-afternoon. That flight was also completely booked, and the temperature in the cabin was hotter than usual. I suspect that the combination of stress, flying across the country twice within less than 24 hours, the heat and sweat, and consuming several rush and eat meals wreaked havoc on my body, as the next day, I developed a rash from head to toe. Thus concludes the tale of the AIX and the challenges associated with that specific chapter of my life. But, Bob Egg, I hear you exclaim, what about the contract with Pi Aras? Well, it went to IBM because naturally it did.